first ring has 3 large stones set down the center, and I wouldn't really call this a typical Georgian style. However, the maker tried to execute it in the Georgian style, as far as the stone setting and the selection of stones surrounding a central plaque. Everything I'm looking at with these stones can be done with a loop. The first thing I notice when examining this is the first thing most of us tend to do when we look at a ring: examine the top face up. And the 3 stones in the center actually have gas bubbles that look like they are in glue. And that was the first thing that drew my attention to the fact that other things might not be right as well. Because it's always possible that the stones were reset and someone did a poor repair and they glued the stones back in. I looked further. The next thing I noticed as I looked at to the side of the ring, the shoulder itself. There are no tool marks in the carving. You'd expect tool marks in an old ring, as this would have been hand carved. As I continued looking on the inside of the ring, along this area, I found some porosity, indicating that this piece was cast. Not a technique that would have been used in the Georgian period. Looking at the back of the ring, the setting style of the center stones is very consistent for Georgian. The fluted cups on the back are certainly seen in the late 18th century Georgian jewelry. The next clue that this might not be an authentic Georgian piece was the fact that all the rose cuts are very consistent with one another. They have only 3 facets and are almost perfectly round. There's also a replacement stone as well, but that's not really that important, as sometimes they would plant a replacement stone to make it look like it was truly old. This is a silver-topped gold ring, silver where the stones are set. And there's a lot of wear, which was easy to create wear and polish because the silver is so soft. And it's easy to put an old-looking patina on it. The last clue is there's actually a hallmark on the inside of the shank. It's a Dutch hallmark. It is an oak leaf with 585 printed at the center, and this indicates that the ring was made after 1955. Conclusion: reproduction. The next ring. This little ring is actually quite typical of the late 18th, early 19th century. It's got a border around a central stone, and the border has a little repoussé pattern. The central stone is set in a bezel, which here's the first clue. If it were a late 18th century ring, it would not be set in a bezel. It would have a cut-down collet. So semi-bezel set. It would have an illusion of having small prongs, even though there would be held in by a very flush, thin bezel. Not of the style that we're looking at. This bezel has a polish that looks like white gold, not silver. And it isn't, like I said, what we call a cut-down collet. It's a straight bezel, and it's attached to the frame with a lot of solder. This ring wasn't made with care. That central piece where the center stone is set does not fit properly into the frame, which is another indication that the ring would not have been made at that time. A handmade ring would have been made with more care and precision in fitting. The side stones are also bezel set, without a cut-down collet. The shoulders are completely free of tool marks, just as with the last ring. And lastly, the center stone. Look at the cut on it. It's absolutely symmetrical. Pretty rare in an old diamond. The old diamonds were cut from very small slivers of diamond, and they made absolute most out of the least. They were looking for surface, face up, not necessarily symmetry. There would have been too much wasted weight to make a perfect oval stone like this one. I'm not saying that they don't exist. I've seen some fairly symmetrical rose-cut diamonds in old jewelry, but all the factors in this one add up to this ring is a reproduction. And the third of our rings that we're going to look at here, well, whenever a Georgian piece comes into the store, I always get very excited about it, hoping that it's a real one. This one quickly dashed my hopes, unfortunately. The first thing I saw when I looked at this ring with the loop was that all the rose-cut diamonds on this ring are perfect geodesic dome-style rose-cut diamonds. They all have a slightly higher crown than what you would see in Georgian pieces, which usually are, like I said earlier, very flat and sliver-like. There's not a lot to them. These, not that they have a very high crown, but they have more of a crown than I would have expected to see. And they are perfectly symmetrical, stone to stone to stone, very calibrated. When you look closely at the setting style, you can see a little prong that is cut out of the bezel. Again, the cut-down collet. The side stones also have a little prong cut down at the edge of each bezel. However, the side stones aren't held in by these bezels. An old setting would have the bezels holding the stone in place. These stones are actually sitting on top of the bezels and aren't secured by them at all. You can see the edge of the rose cut sticking out here on all of the stones. So this is a totally inappropriate setting technique for Georgian times. The diamond is not original, but today rose-cut diamonds. The same goes for the center stone. It's a whole lot thicker than its counterpart from the Georgian period would have been. Next, the patina on this ring. The silver itself, it's almost like it's been painted with a Sharpie. On a few places, it's like it's been chipped off, but the patina isn't worn at all. If this were a Georgian ring, you would encounter a tremendous amount of wear. Looking at the shoulder, that beautiful carving isn't worn at all. And the last thing we found on this ring was that hallmark of the Netherlands again. It's 585 in an oak leaf, and it's been used since 1955. There's also the Dutch hallmark for silver. So a blatant reproduction. This is probably the style you'll see most.